Welcome everyone to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. Welcome back. It's Sunday. It's been a bit of a slow weekend and week basically for Bitcoin. Bitcoin has rallied into resistance. I think last video it was right around here, and price has just been consolidating. We talked about this little gray box here, which got reclaimed but then pretty strongly rejected at resistance. I'm not really entirely sure about my thoughts on Bitcoin right now. We'll talk about that later, and we're going to be talking about ETH because ETH started to move too. That being said, I want your attention first for Ecos. They're sponsoring this content. If you appreciate this content, please check out Ecos. They're a regulatory compliant exchange. They have futures, they have spot, they have on-ramps, off-ramps for your fiat. So definitely worth to check them out. There's a link in the description below. And thanks again, Ecos, for sponsoring. I want to have a little look today at some on-chain metrics, just to have some other kind of content in the video, especially because Bitcoin has just been chopping around, consolidating. We talked about this line right here being important, and now it's kind of like chopping around the level. It's below it again, then it went above it again. So kind of has become a pretty shitty trend line now. Not really anything we can use anymore, in my opinion, especially not now on the lower time frames. If we bounce above it like sharply and the market continues on the bull run, maybe then later on this trend line is going to be significant again, because if we zoom out, it's just a little bit of an interaction with it, but nothing major if we do get a bigger bounce. So then it's probably going to be important again. It's really just patience for Bitcoin. Once again, we still haven't broken the resistance, so selling resistance has been a good idea. Setting bits at supports have been a good idea too. I had a little bit in here that got filled last night, and other than that, this can definitely come and sell off a little bit further. So I'm still cautious, still selling resistance, still buying supports, but obviously there is stops all the way down here at 54,600, 700-ish. And, there is some merit to say that, we want to go and match this low, which would mean that we come down to the range low all the way down here. I think in previous videos I outlined this being the full range. Ideally, you don't lose the middle of the range anymore, which is pretty much around where price is interacting right now. But must we lose it, we're probably going to come down here, and I don't think that if the market is strong, it should lose this. So in the event that we come down here, I'm going to be super slow, super cautious, and still wait for upside structure to form. I think right now it's just a waiting game, and there's not a lot to be said. We're going to be diving into those on-chain metrics in a little bit, just to see on a macro scale where we're at. ETH, it's just, I'm a little bit salty. I kind of hope for, no continuation right here and then come back down here. And if we would have had that would have been a spot for me just to, get a ridiculously big bag. And that's simply because of the fact that, I saw a little bit of a bullish development as price rated this low right here. and not a lot of volume was involved right here. This is the Bitrec chart, but it kind of looks similar on Binance. And obviously, this is only part of the equation because most volume is traded on ETH-USD pairs. So maybe I should have looked there. Maybe that was a mistake. Obviously now Bitcoin is back at Ethereum is back at resistance. And I do think that if we start claiming above here, that I'm going to be waiting for some kind of pullback and get my orders in. Ideally, you know, we retrace back into this range right here, and I'd probably start building a position as we move back into the middle of the range, maybe even slightly lower, but that's only if we have a deviation. So let's see, okay, like that. So let's say in the event that this becomes a deviation and that this is the range, I'd be very happy to get bids in this region right here, and my validation would probably sit below that wick. And then I think if we bounce from there, go back to the range high, that's a high probability place to get some exposure of, and add it back if, you know, let's say this becomes a deviation, then I think there is a shorting opportunity right there and a buying opportunity right here. And then if it comes back up here and then breaks out, it's probably a nice place to add any TP profits back into it, and then we're probably going to go back to 0.04. If that's not the case, if it just you know, starts to moon further up here, I'd probably say that any retest of this right here is a good entry. So I'm just gonna let this develop a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going to happen once Bitcoin starts to move, and you know, Bitcoin has been very quiet. My expectations for Bitcoin are that we probably see a breakout to either side once we, you know, in the next couple of days. There does seem to be a lot of compression here. I don't think it's going to hold a lot more ground in a consolidating form, and that's kind of important for ETH too, I guess. Like, I don't have much exposure to ETH, and I wish I had. But at this point, I think this is a 20% rally. At this point, I'm keen to wait and see what Bitcoin is going to do and keep this area in mind. So I'm going to set bits here for sure. And if we go higher up here, then I want to get the retest around 0.0350. And from there on, if we zoom out a little bit, I think this is still very likely. But if Bitcoin is going to start rumbling, a little bit of sell-off, further consolidation down here would make sense. So kind of torn. I'm not really seeing a good reason to enter right here. Obviously there's this resistance, and then on a larger scale there has been a lot of interacting with this level, so it's kind of important. But if we flip it, I think ETH is going to start looking very bullish and eventually start rising up here. Then let's have a little looky. something I noticed is that miners have stopped selling. So this is the net position change of miners, and if it's red, they're selling more than they're mining, and if it's green, they're selling less than they're mining, or even perhaps like they're buying. And we can see here in the last couple of days, this is April 3rd, so that's yesterday. You can see that miners have started to accumulate, stopped selling, and generally, you know, that indicates that miners have confidence. That doesn't mean that, you know, price can sell off 5 to 10 or 15%, as it, for example, did here. But it is a pretty, you know, strong indication that price is likely to see continuation in the near future. Once we see this kind of selling occur, the big red selling here, it is just an indication that price is going to have trouble to continue, and we see that it has vanished. So interesting, important metric. And then the other thing right here is generally, you know, the biggest sell-off start occurring on Bitcoin once the P/L ratio goes to 50 to 100. Anywhere above that, that's, you know, a big signal to start being cautious. And as it, you know, sells off further than here, it gives us confidence that market can actually start moving up again. So right now it's at 4.9. So there's quite a bit of room, and there should not be as much sell pressure left on Bitcoin at this point from people who are deep in profits. So that's kind of a promising thing too. And here we can see that coin days destroyed is the amount of days Bitcoins were held and not moved. So if there's a lot of coin days destroyed, that means that a lot of coins started moving. We can see that it's pretty low right now, as of yesterday. And generally, when it starts to get low, it just means that the market is ramping up for a bigger move, right? Pretty much see that right here, right here, right here. Every time it dips, it's kind of a little lull. There was one more. I'm always lost here. Yeah, this one. So generally, when you look at stablecoin supply ratio, what you're looking at is that if the metric goes down, that means on average, there's either Bitcoin is moving that down in price. Saying that right? Yeah. Or the amount of stable coins being created just outruns the amount of Bitcoin price appreciation. And what we can see here is that these highs are lower, 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 which means that we can see that even though Bitcoin price is going up, we're creating a lot more stable coins. So the inflow of stable coins created, newly minted stable coins, is quite high. Kind of shows us that we're seeing a big reset in consolidation, and generally I feel that markets have to start moving once you, well, a lot of times start moving when you see a five-way structure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're kind of done here with this consolidating structure, which is in line with this chart we looked at last week, where there is a possibility, one of many interpretations in alleyway theory, and I know that not everyone agrees with me that this is that this could even be a running triangle. So that's up for debate. Personally, it fits my rules and the way I've learned my alleyway theory, and I've kind of confirmed it in the past with similar kind of structures. But you could probably interpret this in as a rising wedge, or as simply this is a fifth wave or the first wave of a new wave, and then an ABC pattern like running flat. I think we talked about that in the previous video too. But the apex of this specific pattern, considering the high here, the fact that we can split it up into two equal parts here, and that the diagonal is running through the apex of the diagonal is running through the same kind of region right here. Just makes a lot of sense considering the other metrics on chain, that everything has been resetting and is ready for a larger move. And my personal expectation has been and still is that this is just starting, the next kind of big extension on Bitcoin. So if this is entirely a four-wave structure in a market that is ridiculously strong, in a macro backdrop that is ridiculously incentivized to buy Bitcoin, I think this is going to be a fifth wave that's going to extend itself as Bitcoin has always extended itself in its final waves in a way that a lot of people are not expecting. We'll have to just wait for that to confirm, obviously, but to me, I think that once we break up here, it's just, there's no way back for Bitcoin in the next couple of weeks to potentially couple of months. And I did a little study. I'll be sharing that study as Bitcoin confirms the breakout, because then it kind of confirms the three scenarios that I drew out for Bitcoin's targets in this bull run. And so you probably cover that in the next video or the video after that, after I've shared it on Twitter. I think that's kind of it. It's been 17 minutes I've been rambling on, and I hope it was informative. If you liked it, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and check out my dear sponsor, Ecos. And I'll hope to see you on Wednesday. Peace.